Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pathways to Knowledge. As you can see, Elena's with us, so I hope that we don't have any mic problems. That's why I'm going to leave her in through this very short introduction. We're going to try to bring you some facts tonight that are very, very important. We're going to be blessed with the spirit presence of the Prophet Muhammad. Incredible spirit, accomplished so much. Many people misunderstand the Islamic faith. I know I did in many ways. If you want to learn more about it, I do have a book, Modern Messages of the Prophet Muhammad. I had to get that little thing in there. So anyway, it's going to be a good show. We've been talking with the Prophet, and he's ready. He knows he's got some difficult questions, but he's quite capable of it. So, Elena, welcome. Thanks for being back, and we might as well get started.
Absolutely. So Muhammad was an Arab religious, military, and political leader, as well as the founder of Islam. According to Islam, people think he was the final prophet of God who was divinely inspired to preach and confirm the monotheistic teachings of Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and as well as the other prophets of Islam. Prophet Muhammad, may peace be with you, and thank you for the privilege of joining us tonight. Would you like to begin with a message for our listeners?
Absolutely. As a messenger of God, I am so privileged to be back again on the show. When I worked with Barry earlier, we tried to bring many facts. Sadly, there are many things that are not accurate, that are written about me, but that is no different from your Lord Jesus. The Gospels contain many falsehoods about him as well. So I think it is very important that I try to bring people to understand the truth, that I bring people to know what I wanted. Now, keep in mind that what I wanted in the 7th century was much different from what my wonderful faith followers are facing today. Things have changed drastically through the years. And I would hope that many of my followers understand that there must be flexibility in all things. There must be the ability to get along with others, to work with others, to do all of the things of love that God wants, that Allah wants. You see, there is only one God. I referred to him as Allah. My followers refer to him that, but the Christians call him God. But you can call him anything you want. He is the final and ultimate energy. It is God who created the incredible heaven or paradise, however you want to refer to that miracle. So yes, I want to take advantage of the opportunity I have once more to try to reach people. I know that a person who I love very much is going to be working with this information and trying to reach as many of her followers as she can. So thank you. Thank you all. Elena, thank you for doing this. And I'm ready for your questions.
You have served God as a prophet in different planets. Were you as successful as you were on Earth?
Yes, Elena. As you know, it took many, many lifetimes of serving God to obtain the status where he would trust my soul to come back and to essentially start a religion. So for billions of years, soul energies have existed. So many, many times during that period, I would be on other planets and I would serve him. He takes many different forms on many different planets. He's referred to in different ways, just the same as he's referred to in different ways on this planet. But yes, it took many, many lifetimes in order to obtain the status where he would have trusted me to do what I did. Just the same as those of you who are followers of him as well know that you can be trusted when you are called upon to help. It is not a coincidence that you are asking questions. It is not a coincidence that my other lovely friends are helping to serve me as well. They've been sent back to serve, and they are doing what God has called them to do.
How did your followers come to believe in you? And did you perform any miracles?
I was given the gift of healing. I could not do it all of the time, but when God would tell me to heal, I was capable of doing it. But I was bringing a message that the people that chose to follow me realized would serve their best interest. Keep in mind, when I walked the earth, there were many different tribes. They were going different directions. They were fighting among themselves. I told them that the true path is cooperation, of getting along, of joining together so that we have common strengths. That I had the ability to speak of the God Allah, that I knew exactly what he wanted them to do that would better their lives. So I just kept working with them, talking to them, just the same as when Jesus walked the earth. Many people didn't listen to him. Many people resented what I was saying. I had to fight. We had to fight wars. I was speaking a message of peace, yet I was forced into some of the most violent actions you can imagine. But I knew we had to do what we must do in order to preserve the messages that I was receiving. I told the people what was believable. I told them that it would be through peace they would gain strength. Through joining together, they would be able to defend themselves militarily, that people would no longer be attacking them. So I told them things they wanted to hear, and it was common sense. Jesus spoke common sense. I spoke common sense. All of the great religious leaders, Buddha, common sense, get along, love, do the things that you need to do in order to create cooperation. It is always through love and cooperation that you can accomplish things. And that is basically why people followed me. I told them what they wanted to hear, and the common sense message that I brought to them, along with the fact that I could do an occasional healing. They realized that I had psychic special abilities. I told them that I was receiving messages from God, and I knew what would be, he was telling me what was best for them. And they accepted this message. Keep in mind that there were many members of the Jewish community who spoke of Jesus and knew of the one God. It was a much different time, but essentially when you tell the people what they want to hear, that will bring them a better life, that will lead them to where they want to go, then you will have a chance of success.
Is it true that you were illiterate and that when the first revelation came, it is general knowledge that you said that you could not read?
I was not illiterate. I was a merchant. I knew how to work with numbers. I could read. I wasn't what you would call totally literate. I could speak parts of different languages because in those days you had to be able to work with the merchants. You had to know how to the numbers. So it is impossible for me to have accomplished what I did during most of my life as being illiterate. I had to have the intelligence to work with others, to work with the traders. Keep in mind, it was not until it was later in my life that I was receiving the messages of God. So most of my life, I lived normally. I traded. I did what I could do. My wife was very talented. She was very intelligent. She was a merchant as well. And we did in those days what we needed to do. So in order to do what was required for me in my early life, I had to have some literacy.
How did you approach the challenge of balancing the distinct entities of various tribes and religious groups in Medina while trying to forge a unified ummah, which means community?
I told them that through joining together, they could obtain the way of life that they wanted. I kept pushing them to cooperate with each other. I tried to point out their similarities, not their differences. I tried to tell them that what God wanted them to do was to live in peace and gain strength through community development. That it was by all of the things that they had in common. I never pushed their differences. I always tried to work out the differences, but I pushed what was common for them and what they needed to do to advance.
In moments of intense conflicts, what were the internal markers you used to decide when to seek a treaty versus when to continue a defensive struggle?
Prayer. I would ask Allah for guidance, and I would think about and focus. I could meditate. And as I said, I have psychic abilities. I think if you look back, you'll see that most of the religious prophets were psychics. I think most of us received our messages in the same way. In dreams, I would see them come to me. There were many things, many ways that I would receive these messages. In dreams, I would see angels. They would speak to me. I would trust the counsel of my friends that were around me. I did not dictate in any way. I would make suggestions, and I would have discussions with them on how to proceed and what was best. But we always focused on commonality. We always spoke about how we could have people work together and find happier lives. Keep in mind, the tribal lives were not easy for these people. They were being attacked, often by other tribes. They were facing many, many difficulties in their life, just the same as everyone faces difficulties today. The message is the same today as it was when I walked the earth. If you show love and cooperate, your problems will basically disappear as you work together. I always focused on what was best. And the leaders, I was lucky in those days. Most of the tribes had leaders that were trying to do the best for their people. And these people, when I spoke a common language with them, they would choose to follow what I was speaking. I always could rely on God for help. If things looked bad, I would pray to Allah to give me the strength to get through it and to make the right decisions. Sometimes I made the wrong decisions, but most often I would make the right decisions.
How did you receive your messages from Allah?
I would receive it in different ways. Mostly it would be coming through dreams. I would have very, very vivid dreams, and the angels would come to me. I would see, and what I was thinking of as angelic spirits. I would have spirits from the past come to me. I would actually have holy figures that I would recognize in my dreams, but mostly it would come through lucid dreams for me.
How did you understand the first revelations at the time? And how did those understandings evolve?
There wasn't essentially a first revelation. There were many. At first, I could not believe what was happening. So it wasn't like this lightning strike that came through. I was being led, just the same as Barry and Connie were led through using a channeling board. I would receive messages. But the essential message was that I was sent back to serve God. And once I accepted that, then in my prayers would change, and I asked for different guidance. But the most important thing that I ever knew was that I was truly sent back to serve God. So there really was no first revelation. It was a process. The first thing you have to do is learn to accept God in your life. And once you do that, then things change for you. But I was told that I was to do the best that I could do to lead the tribes of my area. And that is what I tried to do.
What challenges surprised you the most in the earliest phase of your mission?
People refusing to listen to me. Many of the leaders were more interested in their own personal power, and they would lead their people to destruction rather than to accept the concept of living in a community. I stressed the point that all of the tribes had to act as one. Many of them would rather go to war with me than to accept the communal concept. So I think just the same as today, you have people that refuse to listen. I think that that was probably the greatest disappointment I had.
Did you receive the Quran as it exists today during your lifetime?
No. I received different messages at different times. I would try to have my people write down the messages that I was receiving because I was afraid that I would forget them. I was aware that there had been a great time span from the time Jesus walked the earth until the Gospels were created. So I did not want people to interpret what had happened to me. So I did have my scribes try to make notes and to write down the messages and the concepts that I was trying to follow. But I did not receive the Quran as like a computer download. It took time, and I had to write things down. And even though I wrote things down, people would misinterpret the writings. So I did make an attempt to record things because I knew that there had been a generational gap in the writings concerning Jesus. And I did not want my words to be misinterpreted.
How did receiving the Quran fundamentally change your perception of the world around you on a daily basis?
I converted my life from being a merchant to being a prophet and a religious leader. Throughout most of my life, I never considered myself a religious leader. But all of a sudden, I was getting these messages, and I guess you could say that my soul was changing. I was understanding the concept of why I was sent back. So my entire life changed. Those around me, I influenced them. I would ask their advice. But I was very blessed to have many followers, and those followers continued the religion. Sadly, there were misinterpretations of what I wanted because I was not clear in choosing who would take over in the event of my death. I figured that I would live longer. But I tried my best for clarity. I always felt that clarity in my messages were most important because they were so simple. Many of the things of which I spoke were simply for the people to try to help them. For instance, not to eat pork because many people died from what was in the pork. So it was a process.
In the early years in Mecca, when the message was met with such heavy resistance, what specific personal reflection or habit kept you from despair? And what were your priorities when establishing the community in Medina?
My priorities were always that we were following the wishes of God. I truly believed that I was receiving messages from God. I wanted the people that I loved in the tribes to believe the same as I believed. Many of them resented the fact. Many of them were worshiping idols. There were many, many different ways. The Jewish community was a much more peaceful community than the Arabic tribes were at that time. I wanted to emulate some of the teachings that Jesus had spoken of the documents that I had read. But there were many, many things, many, many difficulties that were standing in my way.
How did you navigate relationships between different tribes and religious groups there?
I would go to the leaders of those tribes and I would tell them that I was receiving spiritual messages of guidance that would lead them to helping their people live in peace. And it would lead them especially to being better able to defend themselves. The individual tribes only had so much military might, but if you joined those tribes together, they were a powerful force. So I think that the desire for safety was probably one of the strongest arguments that I was presenting to them. I would talk of community and living together and cooperating and protecting themselves. Some of the religious teachings came, in all honesty, came later because they had to join together before it was possible for me to give them a unified message.
As a leader who addressed specific 7th century cultural contexts, what advice would you give to future generations on how to distinguish between eternal spiritual truths and practical social application of your time?
I would tell them that modern technologies can be a great benefit or they can be a great deterrent, that they must use common sense to sort out the truth. In my time, the power of men was overwhelming for women. Today, women must have equality with men if our faith is to truly advance. When women are not given equality, our faith is destroying half of the assets that they have to remain strong into the future. It is imperative that they give women equality. You must adapt to the modern times. You must use social media to speak of love and cooperation. You should not use it to speak of divisiveness and hatreds. Today in Iran, the government teaches nothing but hatred and lies. As long as those messages are not changing, there will literally be no chance for the people to truly change with more friendly messages. Propaganda destroys because people, if you are told the same thing for years and years, you will come to believe it. You've heard the saying, truth will set you free. I always tried to speak the truth of what God or Allah was telling me. And as you can see, it created one of the world's greatest religions. So truth is always the answer.
What is the single most important principle for ensuring that the vulnerable, the orphaned, the poor, and the marginalized remain at the center of society's legal and moral framework?
Believing in God. God tells you not to do anything that you don't want done to yourself. So if you do not want to live in poverty, why would you allow others to live in poverty as well? So you just simply follow the simple tenets of love, and it would erase poverty from the face of the earth. Common sense and following what you believe for yourself, what you want for yourself. If you simply do that to others, what can go wrong? Others will respond. If you show hatred and anger, such as we're seeing in the world today, what takes place? The world is at war in many locations at this time because no one is showing cooperation and love. That has to change. It's very simple. Humans can follow the words of the one spiritual energy, or they can destroy themselves. Sadly, that is the truth.
But how do you teach common sense?
You have to speak it, and you have to make the people understand that each person knows right from wrong. Wrong is harming others. Wrong is showing hatreds. All of the wrongs bring bad actions upon the individual that is creating the wrongs. Each individual must be taught to use their own common sense. It is true that God has put a spark of energy in all humans, but each human must use that spark to know right and wrong. It's that simple. Once you understand that, well,
Good.
I know what you're
Good.
going to say. How are you going to make people understand that? It is through coming to them with words that they will understand, and especially words that they believe. If you are speaking, let me use the example of fearing a burning hell. As long as people show that fear, they're not going to love the one God. They're going to fear him because he is going to judge them. They don't understand that what happens to them, they are never, under any circumstances, going to a place of burning hell. They must understand the rewards of heaven. Now, how do you get them to even believe that there is a heaven? Well, they need to learn to just simply open their eyes and look around at all the miracles that they see. Listen on the social media to people that have had near-death experiences. They have entered heaven and have returned. There are many ways to prove that heaven exists. And once you believe in heaven, it's not that difficult to understand the concept of a one God. So it's a process. It starts with the parents teaching the young, teaching them to live a good life, teaching them of the rewards of heaven, not teaching them to fear God, teaching them that love is always the answer. Fear is never the answer. If you live a life of fear, you will not be doing things that you should be doing because you will fear that the bad effect. God expects you to make mistakes. I made many mistakes in my life. You made mistakes. Barry made mistakes. Connie made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes in their lives. But what is important is how you face your future. You face your future by using your common sense, showing love, and speaking the truth. And the truth is that heaven exists, and heaven is the reward for living a good life.
You famously said that seeking knowledge is an obligation. How would you define the ideal relationship between religious faith and the pursuit of scientific or rational discovery?
That is a very interesting question, because you will find that some of the most intelligent individuals have used this intelligence to prove that God doesn't exist. So these people have used their intelligence to prove that they are fools. They have to understand that there is no such thing as a law of nature. There are only laws of God. When they venture forth into space, they're learning that some of the physics that they thought were facts are not. There is no such thing as a law of nature that God cannot change. He created those laws, so why can he not change them? Things can be proven theoretically through analysis, through mathematics, but I key on the word theoretically. Many scientists take what they consider numerical facts as being truly facts. God created miracles. He went against the proven rules of the time. God resurrected from the grave, something that your scientists today have no idea how he did. It is easier for them to say something didn't exist than to say something exists that I cannot prove. They will never prove the existence of God because he wants you to base that on a foundation of faith.
Islam can seem like a structured religion of rituals. Are these a reflection of your character, or were they designed to benefit your followers?
In the early days, I had to lay out ways that brought commonality to the community. So I would say you had these people, many of them worshiped idols. So you must learn to pray to God, to Allah. I would set out rituals for them to follow because many of them had never even prayed to a God. Many of them had prayed to idols. Many of them did not even know God existed. So it was easier for me to lay a structural framework to be followed. These people did not understand the true knowledge that God or we as Holy Spirits have. God truly understands everything that is going on with billions and billions of people throughout the world. And he does this on all the other planets. There's no way you can comprehend this. There's no way you can ever understand, or there's no way you can ever prove it. Barry and Connie have brought you information about the true knowledge that God has. Once you understand the true knowledge, then you truly start to believe, and you know of the miracles that God is capable of. He created everything that you see around you. That is a miracle. If you believe the humans created everything around you, you're a fool. The mountains, the oceans, how do you think all these things came into existence? The fact that the oceans have fish in them that can feed humans. The fact that you can grow crops. The fact that you can take two cells and have a human being created. There's no way this could ever have happened without God's ultimate powers. How do you make people believe this? It'll be one of the most difficult challenges that you ever face.
What has complicated your teachings?
My teachings have been complicated by the inability to adapt them through time. No written artifact of messages is totally accurate. Documents, gospels, hadith, things written 1,500 years ago. There is no way that through time they have not been altered in some manner. The Christian gospels have been altered. My writings have been altered. It is a fact. Humans think that they gain power and that they know more. Many of the popes thought that they knew more than Jesus, and they changed his words. Throughout the time, Islamic leaders have thought that they, through their education and learning, could make small changes. Well, through time, small changes become large changes. So they must understand how modern times must be treated with modern concepts. Any religion, for instance, I'll give you another religion for Christianity, because most of the people probably listening are Christians. The Gospels, the first Gospel was not written until basically 2 generations after the death of Jesus. And they were written basically from memory. So there is no way that Gospels could be 100% accurate to the words of Jesus. Nobody wrote every word down that he was speaking. Nobody wrote down every word that I was speaking. I would have them take notes. Some of the notes were very generalized. After my passing, there were different interpretations. You have Sunni and Shia, different interpretations. So if there are different interpretations within my faith, how can it be that the words are 100% accurate? I was a simple person. There are portions of writings attributed to me that are incredibly complicated. There are parables attributed to Jesus. Jesus spoke simple words. I spoke simple words. Throughout time, if the messages are complicated, the people, and throughout time, most people were uneducated. The uneducated have to rely on the leaders for interpretation. And the more that interpretation is relied upon, the more power these people have, because they can say whatever they think for the interpretation. So I don't know if I'm being totally clear here, but complicated writings are not truly portraying the words that were spoken for any of the religious leaders.
The Quran sometimes includes warnings and fear-based imagery and divine punishment. Was this intended as a way to guide people to God, or could it be a misinterpretation of your message?
What it is interpretations taken from the Christian faith that bled over into the words that we were speaking. Christians spoke differently of what happened to the human soul than what we spoke of. I needed to lay out rules to bring people closer to the God of which I spoke. The strict prayer rules, there is no need for these. I hear conversations people have. In prayer, I understand what you say. When you hear Barry's message from Jesus, he says, have a conversation with God. You do not need strict prayers. The Catholics use the rosary for a reason. In my faith, you use the method of prayer for a reason. It is a way to guide people that do not know how to pray. Today, you do not have to pray to me multiple times of the same prayer. We understand what you say one time. That is why we say, have a conversation with us. We know, we understand, and we hear. We want to know what is in each individual's heart that is spoken through prayer. When you are praying the prayers of others, you are not speaking what is in your heart. When we know what is in your heart, we know how to guide you. When we know that you're speaking the prayers of others, that we know that you are having a conversation with us, but it is not a kind of conversation from your heart.
What is the most important quality a person should cultivate to strengthen their relationship with God?
An openness. The opening your heart and mind to the true beauty of God. If you have fixed ideas, then you are not ever going to understand the true beauty and flexibility of all the things in God's world. There is nothing that God cannot change. But if you only listen to a strict pathway, then there is a narrow path for you to follow. But if you open your heart, it is having this whole open world for you to join into. Listen to what sounds true to you and follow those words. Do your best. Whatever you do your best. As long as you do your best, understand as best you can what God wants of you. Understand the simplicity of God's messages. Understand the simple concept of not hurting others. And life becomes pretty simple. When you follow a narrow path, it is hard to stay on a narrow path. But when you have an open world in front of you, you are not confined to a narrow path. Think of narrow teachings as that narrow path. We want you to expand, to understand and show love to all. If you're being taught hatreds, that is a narrow path you must get off of.
How can someone maintain sincere faith in times of doubt or hardship?
It can be very difficult. Grief. All people suffer grief. All people suffer illness. You see babies die, and you will say, why would God ever let this baby die? Maybe it's a karma from a prior life that the parents, maybe those parents harmed children in their past life. There is always a reason, but you never blame God. Blame the karmas from prior lives. You are creating karmas in this life that will affect your future life. If you have lessons to learn. You will never understand what people suffering pain go through if you do not suffer pain. You must understand others if you are going to do the best for them.
What guidance would you offer people navigating technology, materialism, and distraction?
Caution. Do not believe that artificial intelligence can ever replace the common sense of humans. Do not ever believe that the human mind is not more important than the artificial mind that you create. It can be very difficult in the future because you can create machines that can do things much faster and more rapidly than the human mind. But that machine never has common sense. Only humans have common sense. So you must control the devices that you invent. Many people in other cultures have created high technologies that you cannot ever conceive of. And those high technologies have destroyed those cultures because the common sense of those individuals lost control. You must always control what is around you. You must always control the faith that you have in God. As long as you have that faith and use common sense, humans will advance. The other civilizations have, and other civilizations have been destroyed.
How can communities preserve moral values while adapting to change?
By preaching lessons of truth and common sense. There are religions that are telling you that only a fixed number of members of that religion can go to heaven. If you're listening to messages that are not true, then you are not leading the young on the path upon which they should be led. Now the question becomes, how do you recognize truth from lies? You must always just simply rely on guidance through prayer and your common sense. You will not go wrong doing that. pray to us and ask for guidance. You'll receive proper guidance. If you don't pray to us, if you don't believe in God, don't believe in heaven, you're on your own, and you will not receive the guidances that you require.
What do you think later generations have misunderstood about your life and mission?
I think that they understand very little that actually took place in my life. While much is written about it, I think much has been distorted. I had a very difficult time. Many people resented what I was saying. I had to be violent. I had to fight wars. I had to protect my people. There were many things that I had to do. Many people misinterpret the violence that I had to create in my life. I had to protect my followers. Without those followers continuing to live, the whole religious movement that God sent me back to create would go away. So yes, I had to do things I hated to do. I had to kill others. I had to teach lessons. Sometimes I had to be feared. I did not want people waging war against my people or me. So we all do things that we have to do. It was a very difficult time. I had a very difficult life, but I succeeded because I had wonderful followers. I had great people, and they believed in the community concept.
What part of your message do you feel is most often misunderstood today?
I think the part of my message that's most often understood is the ritualistic part of it. Rituals were very, very important when I walked the earth. They were important for a while through time. But as humans became more educated, the requirement for ritual diminished. As humans truly understood the concept of prayer, the concept of communication with God, the truth of speaking what is in your heart. When people understand that, there is really no require for ritual. When you truly understand that prayer should be a conversation with God or with the Holy Spirits or with angels, then there's really no need for ritual because now you have the true understanding. I had to lead people through ritual to understanding. Oh, sorry. That, believe it or not, was my healthcare people trying to tell me I have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday. So anyway, sorry about that. I usually turn it off, but I forgot to do it this morning. So forge ahead. I lost my place with the Charlie. What's next?
What part of the message do you feel is most misunderstood today?
The concept of ritual. That I wish there was more of a concept of flexibility. You have a right to believe in God or law any way that you wish to believe it. What is important is how you lead your life. If ritual is required in order to do that, then so be it. But when you are truly advancing, then there is no need for the ritual. If people took the time that was required to study the details and the understandings and use that time to help others, think how much better things would be.
But don't you think our leaders are just leading everybody down the path of don't tolerate anything but my ideas? There is no free will for you to accept a person as they are. There is no common sense. How do we instill this into the people?
It has to be a generational thing, and it always starts with the young. It is always how the parents treat the young. If the parents give their children a strong foundation, then they will be better able to understand peer pressure, to understand the propagandas, the lies that they're told as they grow. Today, many of the educational institutions are leading people away from God. But it all starts with the family and the young. We have to build stronger family relationships. In the inner cities, many of the fathers are deserting the mothers, leaving them to raise the children on their own. They do the best they can, but the government is destroying the middle class by raising the cost of living. It's making it harder and harder. The government has to understand that the middle and lower class people have got to have the same educational and standard of living levels that they can provide what they need for their children. It all begins with the children. That is where all future leaders come from. If those children have a foundation of faith, be it any religion, but it always has to be of love and knowing that what they do is going to influence how they live their lives.
But at times it seems like the government is in the right place having these programs and trying to finance daycare centers that really don't exist. I mean, they didn't know that they didn't exist, but they're trying to finance and trying to do the right thing. And then evil people corrupt the program. How do we prevent those people from corrupting the program?
By having definitive penalties. When I
Making them
walked
accountable.
when I walked the earth, if you stole, I cut off your hand. That was very definitive, and it stopped people from stealing. Today, you get a slap, you can kill people and walk away from it. The courts are not enforcing. While God is a loving, loving God, there are many people that do not follow him. You must treat evil as evil. There must be a deterrent. If you allow people to break the rules, they must be absolutely punished. I had to do it to create the community that I wanted to create. So it's a very, very difficult situation. But there is always going to be evil. There's always free will. So people will use that free will to further their own personal ambitions, their own greed, their own thirst for power. Until the young are taught that that is not the proper path, that there is much more to gain in working towards a proper soul life, because your soul life has the rewards. The human rewards are short-lived. You will not take any of your human rewards to heaven when you die. They have to understand the long game, not the short game.
What defines a just society? And can this just society only exist within the Islamic faith?
A just society should exist within any faith. A just society is where everybody understands what is best for their neighbors, for the people that they're around. When people try to do unto others as they would have them done unto themselves, that is when you will have a just society.
In a divided world, how should people treat those who believe differently?
They should respect different beliefs. There are thousands of ways to serve God. There is no religion that gets everything right in service of God. Every individual is going to heaven. Every individual, through their free will, makes the decisions that must be made. If everyone understands that there are billions of individual paths that all lead to the same place, then that is when you will start to truly be able to make a difference.
Would you please comment on the Sunni-Shia relationship?
That is a classic example of different interpretation. It breaks my heart when I see it. I wanted a single Islamic community. The hatreds that have grown for no reason. I mean, if you stop and look at the foundational reasons behind it, they are literally very minor. Why would people go to war simply because they are a different sect in the same religion? I wish power is one good reason for it. I wish that they would understand that we are all equal. I wish they would understand that I truly wanted a single community, and that the difference is drawing the communities apart. Stop and think of the power of the Islamic faith if they would simply join together and have mutual goals for the people. It would be such a different world. They are not using the common sense that God has given them, because they are letting a difference of opinion destroy the potential that our religion could truly have.
How do you view the Jewish-Muslim relationship today?
In my time, I got along well with the Jewish people. I actually borrowed some of their teachings, some of the Christian teachings, from the Jewish faith. I borrowed concepts from the Christian faith. You can see them in my teachings. Today, the hatreds have grown so immense. I think that it is truly the fault of members that are just trying to destroy my true faith. The concept of death to America, the concept of death to Jews. This is a terrible thing. It will take many generations to end the hatreds. But the answer is not in warfare. The answer is to try to cooperate in mutual areas. My people need the Jewish faith. If they work with the Jews, they will find prosperity that they could never find otherwise. If they stop putting their major resources into weapons, they will find that the people will be so much happier and they will accomplish so much more. The Jewish people can actually be a major answer for improvement in the Islamic faith. I see that certain Islamic countries are going to be cooperating with Israel on pipelines to ship oil so that they don't have the problems that are ongoing. There are things that they can do to work together that will be for the betterment of both countries, both religions. It is the same thing that we keep saying. Don't do anything unto others you don't want done to yourself.
But how do we get the religious leaders of the Shia, the Jews, the Christians, all to come together and focus on their commonality instead of their differences? And don't say common sense, because that is something that is lacking in this world. What can we do?
That is a very difficult question, because if you eliminate common sense, then you eliminate the most powerful tool that they would have to bring things together. Force Do you have to defeat one to bring people in that can? I'm going to use Iran again as the example. The leadership of Iran has little to do with my teachings, but they have told the people that they are the way. They teach hatreds above love. I tried to teach love above hatreds. So they are the opposite of what I taught. So evil must be destroyed. We discussed this earlier. So perhaps the only way out for the Iranian people is for them to destroy the leadership. It's sad to say, but there are times, and I faced it during my life, where I had to resort to violence. So if people refuse to accept what is best for the people, then the people have to do what is necessary to enforce what is best for them on the leadership. Sadly, that may be the only way out in that situation.
What events of your life are most often taken out of context?
I think my violent acts. Many people use the fact that I waged war as an example that I was a violent individual. I wasn't. I was a merchant. I dealt with others, with everyone that was different from me. But I had to protect my people. And if I had not waged war, they would have been destroyed. So I think that the concept that I was a violent person is probably my most misunderstood.
Do you have a final message for our listeners?
Yes, I want to thank you so much. I hope that you have listened to what I have to say, and I hope that it will help you to better understand what has taken place in the Islamic faith through the years. Many things are very difficult in our faith. It is a wonderful, wonderful religion. It is a religion of love. It is a religion of helping others. So there are many, many things that any other faith can emulate. But in truth, the religion needs to be more flexible in this modern time. I do believe that there are leaders that will come forth and help lead the faith. I think that there will be a time that the Sunni and Shia will understand the great power that they could have if they just simply joined together. So I do my best still from this side to lead and to help. And I hope that all of you will do your best to lead your own individual path to heaven. Live the good life, and God will reward you for it in your final day. So thank you very, very much for allowing me to speak today.
Prophet Muhammad, thank you oh so very much for your gift of knowledge for us tonight.
Indeed, great show. A lot of huge information. I've channeled him so many times writing the book, but he's a spectacular energy. He's so strong. When I'm in the presence of a strong energy, it makes my nose itch. And that was why you saw me. And I forgot to turn my phone off tonight, so always not as easy as usual. So anyway, we'll be back again next week. Don't know what it's going to be, but it'll be spectacular like tonight was. So, Elena, have a good
forward
week.
to it. You too.
We'll
See you next week.
Goodbye, everyone. Tell others about our show. I think that you can really help a bunch of people. Subscribe to our channel. Do all the things you can to help us. That's all we ask. Goodbye.